the lake that rejects the living, but never forgets the dead. Every few years, when the snow melts, hundreds of skeletons rise from its frozen heart, as if the mountain itself is remembering something we've tried to erase. Imagine finding a lake so cursed, even the ice keeps secrets. Scientists called it Skeleton Lake, but the locals, they called it a mirror, where the past looks back at you. No crime, no war, yet hundreds of bodies, perfectly preserved, staring through centuries of silence. No one knows who they were or what they were running from. The Himalayas hide many things: gods, myths, temples. But 16,000 feet above sea level, there's a place that hides something far darker, proof that history is not a straight line. If death had a memory, it would look exactly like this place, because what they found under that frozen water doesn't just challenge history, it challenges time itself. In 1942, a British forest ranger stumbled upon the site while surveying the region. What he saw shattered every scientific explanation of that time. Men, women, some barely adults, their skeletons perfectly preserved by the ice. He thought maybe it was an ancient massacre or a lost army frozen to death. But when the snow melted further, his team found something far more bizarre: jewelry, wooden artifacts, leather sandals, not soldiers, ordinary people, families. So what brought hundreds of them to this deathbed in the sky? Scientists started digging, literally, and with every skull they unearthed, one question got louder. Who were these people? Carbon dating placed their deaths around 850 AD, but the DNA told another story. Half of them genetically linked to people from South Asia. The rest from the Mediterranean? Wait, what? Mediterranean people? In the middle of the Indian Himalayas? Over 1,000 years ago? Historians went crazy. How could two completely different groups, thousands of miles apart, end up dead together in the same frozen crater? One theory said a pilgrimage gone wrong. The other whispered something darker, a curse of the goddess Nanda Devi, the protector of the mountains. According to legend, a king once defied her by entering her sacred valley with dancers and music. Enraged, the goddess summoned a storm so powerful it rained death upon them. Locals still say, when thunder rolls in Roopkund, you can hear the cries of the cursed. But myths couldn't satisfy science, so in 2019, researchers ran advanced DNA sequencing, and what they found changed everything again. The skeletons weren't all from the same time. Some died around 800 AD, others in the 1800s, 1,000 years apart. Different eras, different origins, one lake, and none of them had visible signs of combat or wounds, as if something from the sky killed them all. Then came the breakthrough, a clue hidden in the skulls themselves. Every skull had identical fractures, not from blades, not from falls, circular depressions, as if each person was struck by something heavy, round, from above. Scientists realized they all might have been killed by hailstones, massive, deadly hail, the size of cricket balls, raining down in a storm of chaos. Hundreds, trapped in a narrow glacial valley, nowhere to run. Each blow, fatal. Each strike, silencing another life. The storm didn't just freeze them, it erased their story. And centuries later, the mountain finally exhaled their bones. But here's where it gets stranger. Some skeletons carried Mediterranean DNA from Greece or Crete, and were dated 1,000 years newer than the others. How did two separate groups, from two distant timelines, die in the same lake, under the same conditions? Coincidence? Or something repeating itself, like a pattern coded in the mountain itself? The question no one can answer. Why did they return? And why does Roopkund keep calling strangers, even centuries later? Because even today, hikers claim they've heard footsteps in the snow when no one was there. And some say the mountain still remembers the sound of that storm. When the ice melts again, new DNA surfaces, and one skeleton tells a story that shouldn't exist. They thought the mystery was over. That hailstorm explained everything, but science has a strange way of humbling certainty. When researchers dug deeper into the newly thawed bones, they found one that didn't belong, not because of its age, but because of its story written inside the DNA. It didn't match any known group, not Indian, not Mediterranean, not even close. This skeleton was from a lineage that vanished from history almost 2,000 years ago, and somehow it ended up frozen in Roopkund. That single discovery broke every theory apart. If one skeleton could belong to a lost population, then what if Roopkund isn't just a burial site, but a meeting point of timelines? A place where stories from different centuries somehow intersect. Impossible? Maybe, but the mountain doesn't seem to care about what humans call impossible. In 2020, another team ran isotopic analysis, a test that reveals where a person lived and what they ate before death. The results made no sense. That unknown skeleton's last meals contained traces of marine elements, salt compounds found only near the sea. But Roopkund sits more than 16,000 feet above sea level, hundreds of miles from any ocean. So how did a sea dweller die in a frozen Himalayan lake? Some scientists whispered a new theory. Maybe the lake wasn't just a lake. Maybe it was a ritual site, where people from distant lands came searching for something that doesn't exist anymore. Ancient texts talk about the mirror of the gods, a sacred place where the heavens touched the earth, where the soul could reflect its past lives. And some locals still believe that those who see their reflection in Roopkund's water see not their face, but their fate. But if you think that's just folklore, wait, because in the last decade, something even more chilling started happening. Every few years, after heavy monsoons, the lake reveals new skeletons, ones that weren't there before, not uncovered. New DNA analysts confirmed it. Different individuals, different timelines. It's as if the lake keeps adding names to its list. One researcher who visited Roopkund in 2017 said something that still haunts those who heard it. He said, "When I stood near the edge, the wind sounded like whispering voices, and when I leaned closer to the ice, I could swear I saw my own reflection blink." He never went back. A year later, he vanished during another expedition in the same region. His body was never found. Some call it coincidence, others call it the curse of the lake, a force that draws the curious in and doesn't let them leave. But what if it's not a curse at all? What if Roopkund is just a record keeper, storing every soul that dares to disturb its silence? Hundreds of bones, different centuries, same ending. And that unknown skeleton? It was buried again, deep inside an Indian lab, sealed under restricted access. No public data, no updates since 2021. Why? Because maybe someone found something in its DNA that wasn't meant to be revealed. Something that could change everything we think we know about history, migration, or human evolution itself. Yet the mountain waits, silent, watching. Every spring, when the ice begins to melt, locals say they see new ripples forming on the lake's surface, as if something beneath is waking up again. And maybe, when the next thaw comes, Roopkund will give us another skeleton, one that doesn't belong to the past, but to the future. When the samples from Roopkund reached the labs in Delhi and Munich, scientists expected to find old tribal or Mediterranean ancestry. But what they found didn't exist in any human database. The sequence, unclassified. Fragments didn't match any known species on Earth. It wasn't alien, but it wasn't fully human either. It was something in between. At first, the data was dismissed, labeled as contamination. But after multiple retests, the same pattern emerged. Whoever that skeleton belonged to carried genetic markers thousands of years ahead of known human evolution. Almost as if the bloodline had skipped time itself, word spread quietly through the research network. Then, suddenly, silence. The results were locked. Researchers received gag orders. One of the labs handling the sample reported a data loss incident. The servers wiped clean overnight. No backups, no explanation. And just like that, the most mysterious discovery in modern anthropology vanished from record, but not from memory. One of the junior researchers who worked on the DNA project leaked a line in a private forum before disappearing offline. Greater than, the genes weren't from another planet, they were from another cycle. What did he mean by cycle? Ancient Sanskrit texts describe something eerily similar, the Manvantaras, great cycles of humanity that rise and fall over eons. Each time the world resets, a few remnants survive to seed the next era. What if Roopkund isn't a tragedy site, but a storage vault from an earlier cycle? A message from the humans who came before us, frozen, waiting to be found when the next civilization starts asking too many questions. The bones, the artifacts, the mismatched DNA, maybe none of it was accidental. Maybe the mountain chose when to reveal them. Each thaw, a new piece of the puzzle. A slow reminder that time doesn't just move forward, it loops. Some local monks say the lake was once a doorway, not to another place, but to another version of Earth, a reflection of what was and what will be again. They believe those skeletons aren't victims, they're messengers, left behind so that when we finally find them, we remember that we've been here before. And maybe that's why the DNA didn't match any known lineage, because it wasn't meant to. Because the person who died at Roopkund was never from our time. In 2023, satellite imaging picked up something strange near the lake. Anomalies in the terrain, like hollow pockets beneath the ice. Maybe Skeleton Lake isn't a graveyard. Maybe it's a message left behind by those who knew the world ends, but not everything dies. And if the mountain decides to melt again someday, it won't just reveal bones. It'll reveal what humanity was before we forgot who we were. The mystery of Skeleton Lake isn't about who died there, it's about who might still be waiting to return. Some stories don't want to be solved, they just want to be remembered, again and again. Every time the ice cracks open another secret. What's buried in Skeleton Lake isn't history, it's a warning, whispered through time, reminding us that even death isn't the end of a cycle.